So today's event is co-hosted by AFWA-WLC Alliance Women's Leadership Committee, the Coalition of Labor Union Women and Global Labor Justice. We have fabulous lineup of speakers today who are waiting to share their powerful stories and lessons learned from women-led work of fights around the world. On behalf of AFWA-WLC Alliance, we stand here in solidarity, not just in words, but in shared struggle. From factories across Asia to workplaces in the United States, our realities are connected. The violence, the harassment, the silence imposed on women workers, this is systematic and it must end. We stand with the women in the United States labor and farm workers movements who are breaking the decades of enforced silence and fear. We stand with all women workers demanding dignity, justice, and accountability, not just from brands or bosses, but within our own movements. Because there is no liberation in silence. Your voice is our voice, and together we will be heard. I also want to recognize that we have with us sisters and comrades from across the world, from across Africa, Latin America, North America, Australia, Europe, and Asia. We welcome you to this space and thank you for joining. Here to kick us off, I would like to invite Wanda Wilkins, Vice President of CWA Local 7019, to share with us some words of background on why it is so historic that we all are here today. Over to you.
Thank you, Abarabi. Hello, my name is Vonda Wilkins, and I am the Vice President of the Greater Western Arizona Coalition of Labor Union Women, and excited to address this group of powerful union women today. We are here because working women in garment factories across Asia, in hotels in Chicago, in industries across the United States have been building power, and it's working. At last year's CLUW 25th Biannual Convention on November 10th, we unanimously passed the resolution in solidarity with the union garment workers. After a powerful keynote from Asia's Floor Wage Alliance, Dion Septi. CLUW women from across the country unanimously pledged their solidarity with our garment union sisters. Building off that call to action, the National CLUW Garment Solidarity Committee committed to putting together this gathering here today to ask our members across the country to come together in an alliance with AFWA's Women Leadership Committee and celebrate what we have won so far and make the ask of our sisters to join us in this ongoing fight. We at CLUW with AFWA and GLJ, we have been building something together, a transnational alliance. We refuse to accept gender-based violence and harassment as the cost of doing business. Time and time again, we have heard from countless people that this is how it is, and to just sit down and stay quiet and keep working. But I see here women who are every day challenging this status quo, speaking up, and organizing innovative ways to build power of working women. So we'll hear from models of women workers organizing that have been successful in places like Dindigul, India, and Central Java, Indonesia, Chicago, Illinois, to Central America. Today, you'll also hear and learn more about and have the opportunity to take action in the Justice for Pushpa campaign. We publicly call out on Victoria's Secret and Bandex for justice for a Sri Lankan garment worker and mother of two who recently died after being denied medical leave on the job. You know, her death reminds us of the struggles of millions of other garment workers currently in South and Southeast Asia and those before us. And that we're here to organize and take action. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. So let's get started. I'd like to invite Abarami to introduce our first speaker.
Thank you, Wanda. So now I would like to invite Sultana Begum. So Sultana Begum is the president of Green Bangla Garment Workers Federation. And she was a garment worker for more than 11 years in Bangladesh ready-made garment. She has been a trade union leader for over 26 years. Through her long-standing commitment, she has been a prominent voice for garment workers' rights and empowerment in Bangladesh. She is also a member of AFWA-WLC Alliance Women's Leadership Committee. Over to you, Sultana.
শুভ সন্ধ্যা সবাইকে।
Good evening, everybody.
গ্রিন বাংলা গার্মেন্টস ওয়ার্কার্স ফেডারেশন এবং
From Green Bangla Workers Federation and AFWA Bangladesh, I want to express my gratitude. I am the president of Green Bangla Garments Federation, and I work in the R&D sector of Bangladesh for a long time. For 25 years, I have been working as a woman worker leader. When I was a garments worker, since then till now, there hasn't been much change. Women every day in the factories are victims of violence and harassment, sometimes by supervisors. Sometimes supervisors yell at the women and harass them to work faster. The harassment happens in various ways. Women are just production tools for them. Many women at young age come to the cities for work as garments workers, and they're very trusting. There has been many incidents where an innocent worker has been forced to have a relationship with the male supervisor. When a woman at her first job becomes victim of such violence and harassment, that is very scary. They start to think that maybe this type of violence has to be endured by them in every step of the way. If anybody tries to complain against these harassments, they're sacked out of job and they have to start from scratch in a different place. Even if they have 5 years of experience at work, sometimes they're also blacklisted to get work from another place, which is why women are scared to speak up, because garment work is their only way of making a living and supporting their family. If they complain, the results or consequences can be fatal. For women, it is not safe to come out and speak. Although there are some measures or grievance mechanisms, those aren't effective. In Bangladesh, there are some committees to prevent gender-based violence, which are supposed to help women. But in reality, these committees are not very effective in preventing these violences. Many times, workers don't know how to complain. Many are scared to complain. There are complaint boxes, but there are CCTV cameras over the boxes, so nobody can actually anonymously make a complaint. Sometimes brand reps do factory audits, but it is common for the management to threaten workers to not say anything bad, and they select workers who will get to talk to the brand. So the brand check their boxes and just walk away satisfied, thinking they have done their job. Women are expected to be silent, to endure, to accept this as part of the job.
জীবিকা অর্জনের জন্য
but we should
কখনো
never accept this
আমাদের
type of
নির্যাতনের
abuse
জন্য
to earn a living.
আমি একজন
I-
আমি একজন
I
হিসাবে
speak
কথা
as
বলতে
someone
যিনি বাংলাদেশে
who knows
নারী
deeply the
শ্রমিকের
struggles
সংগ্রাম
of women
সংগ্রাম
workers in
করেছিলেন
Bangladesh.
এবং কিন্তু বাস্তবে
But
এই
in
সরকার
reality, this
কারখানায়
is the situation for
শ্রমিকদের
almost
অবস্থা
all
অনেক
garment
খারাপ।
workers in
বিশেষ
Asia,
করে সংগঠন
especially
করার
because we have the severe
পূর্ববর্তী
repression of freedom of association.
নিপীড়নের কারণে একজন নারী শ্রমিকের জন্য
It is very difficult for a woman worker to speak up and get justice on their own. Women workers can create change only by standing together and building power together and taking a stand against injustice. Without an independent trade union, without the ability to collectively bargain and join a union, women will not be safe if they raise a complaint against violence and abuse. Collective power of workers on the factory floor is essential, but our power has to reach even further. Fashion brands very easily move their production from one country to another. If one supplier factory doesn't meet their standards, they will move to another place, leaving workers jobless. When violence or abuse is exposed at one factory, the brands often respond by cutting ties and moving somewhere else. And this is how the garment industry works. And brands have power to move their orders at any time. Suppliers need to make sure that the brands keep placing orders, so they discipline the workers with violence and they use threats and intimidation to keep them silent. The system works by silencing workers to protect profits and not by protecting workers' rights. But violence doesn't stop at the border. Women workers face the same abuse and inability to safely report grievances in every garment production country, and the same brands are profiting from it wherever they choose to relocate. This is why our collective power as trade unions must extend beyond borders. And this is why we launched the Violence Out of Fashion campaign initiated by AFWA-Women's Leadership Committee, made up of women trade union leaders from Bangladesh, Cambodia, India, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and is supported by GLJ. We launched this campaign because we know what is possible when women workers unite, and we know that respect, safety, and dignity in workplace is real. We know how to get it. We have the working model from Dindigul and Central Java. They're presented as a working model. When one of our sister falls, like Pushpalata from the Brandis factory in Sri Lanka, we will stand together everywhere and shout violence out of fashion, so that no matter where brands are sourcing in any country in our region, they cannot ignore us. Thank you for your solidarity. We stand united as women, as workers, and as union leaders across the world. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sultana, for the powerful message. Now, I would like to welcome Ashley Saspi, the Gender Justice Coordinator and Asia Regional Coordinator of AFWA-WLC Alliance, who will provide an overview of the proven union-led models that effectively address gender-based violence and harassment in garment factories. The solution to address GBVH that women workers across Asia are demanding. Over to you, Ashley.
Thank you, Abirami. So I want to build on what Sultana said, that we launched Violence Out of Fashion, knowing that safe workplaces for women are possible because we have the working models in Dindigul, India, and Central Java, Indonesia. The Dindigul Agreement, which concluded in October 2025, was signed by the union TTCU, supplier Eastman Exports, brands H&M, PVH, and Gap, with AFWA and GLJ as global labor signatories, and the Central Java Agreement for Gender Justice, which was signed in 2024 by unions SPN, SPSI, and CASPI, On-Tide Factories, Batang Apparel and Simran Garment, the brand Fanatics, and labor allies AFWA-GLJ and the Worker Rights Consortium. So women workers and their unions have fought for these agreements and won, and proven that we can make safe workplaces a reality so long as the right to unionize is protected and survivors are at the center. And these agreements are transformative. Not only do they enforce binding commitments from fashion brands, but they require factory management to stand with the union, publicly declaring a zero-tolerance policy on gender-based violence and guaranteeing the right to unionize. So these agreements put in place a union-led program that has these crucial components. Next slide, Noah. Worker shop floor monitors. These are union-selected women workers that are trained to identify harassment, help their coworkers report safely, and hold regular meetings with management to resolve issues. A survivor-centered grievance mechanism. So this includes regular labor management dialogue and multiple channels for reporting. And critically, brands must use their business leverage to enforce remedies so that workers are made whole and protected from further harm, and violations are prevented from recurring. Also, specialized training for workers, managers, and supervisors. And this is training that is led by the union and workers with support from gender experts. Also integrating international labor standards like ILO conventions C190, 87, and 98. These are put into practice on the shop floor. Freedom of association is protected, with additional protections against retaliation for anyone who participates or who comes forward to report abuse. And protection for workers facing intersectional discrimination based on migration status, caste, ethnicity, and more. And finally, a global oversight committee of labor, brands, and suppliers that drives the compliance and accountability from the highest levels, and business incentives whereby brands leverage their sourcing to incentivize the suppliers' cooperation and protect workers' jobs. So this is the blueprint. We have it. It has been proven to work in independent reports. And now we call on brands to step up and do the right thing for women workers in their supply chains.
Thank you, Ashley. I am so inspired to hear from our sisters in Asia about the victories in the garment factories. We are building an alliance to ensure that gender-based violence and harassment is addressed across not just every garment factory floor, but in every workplace. And now it is my absolute honor to introduce our next speaker, a powerhouse in the labor movement and truly an inspiring leader, Katora Johnson. She is the International Vice President of the Association of Flight Attendants, CWA, and she stands before us as a proud queer union veteran. Beyond her national leadership, Katora is a global force representing over 17 million transport workers as a representative for the International Transport Workers Federation. She is a fierce advocate for making our industry safe and inclusive for everyone, specifically lifting up voices of the LGBTQIA+ community, immigrants, and Black and Indigenous people. Please join me in welcoming a leader who is truly making history for all workers. Welcome, Katora.
Thank you, Vonda. Hey, everyone. Setting the tone, I'm currently in Philadelphia. I don't know if you see my picket signs, but we learned recently that ICE is in the airports here and all around. And so wherever I go, I like to stand on business and make sure people know what's going on. And when I took my walk earlier, I saw my picket sign from the outside. So that means that other people were able to see. What an incredible opportunity and honor to be here. Thank you for having me. Happy Women's Month is as we end on an incredible note. I do want to tell you how it started. It started on the 1st, clearly, and I had the incredible opportunity to watch the United Steelworkers install their very first woman president, Roxanne Brown, and the amount of support that was in there to lift up another woman and woman of color and was incredible. So it's always important to say people's names when they're not in the room. So I just wanted to give a big shout out to Roxy, who's a great friend of mine and who's leading now this United Steelworkers. But I also am bringing solidarity to you from 55,000 flight attendants at 20 airlines. I am from Piedmont Airlines based in Philadelphia, so it is good to be home today. I just want to go over a quick quiz. I don't know if a lot of people know about aviation's first responders, that's what we call ourselves, or flight attendants. And so when we do new hire presentations, sometimes we make everyone stand up. And I don't know if we can do this, but just follow along with me for a second if you can. So did you know that if you wanted to become a flight attendant prior to 1971, you could not wear glasses or have contact lenses? So I see some folks on the call with contact lenses. You'd have to sit out. You'd be out, right? If you had a beard or a mustache, I know I see some, oh my gosh, yes. If you were male, if you had children, if you were married, if you were under 25, and then over 32, so there's a very small gap there. If you weighed more than 115 pounds, this gets a lot of folks. That's why we don't talk about women's weight, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on, about why we don't. And if you were not a registered nurse. So these are all the things that when people walk on the plane, they see flight attendants. We fought our union, the Association of Flight Attendants, who was founded and built by women. We just celebrated our 80th anniversary, the Fab Five, as we call them, made it way for myself to be where I am, for anyone who walks on a plane. And whenever I go to the new hire presentations, I always let them know, like, did you know this is how unions start? This is how solidarity is built, by knowing that someone was having your back even before you needed someone to have your back. And it happened to be women, because women are badasses. So, I found my voice in the workplace, but it was my union that taught me how to fight, not only for myself and my career as a flight attendant, but for other people. I am a Black lesbian. I'm very loud. I'm very outspoken. I don't fit in a box, so I got rid of the box. People say that they create, now I just got rid of it. But I also know how to show up and to create space to show up for other folks in and out of the labor movement, because as we know, not everyone is in the labor atmosphere. And so it's really important that we create space for that as well. As I said, we are aviation's first responders. Our job is to keep you safe. And just like so many folks on this call, in the garment industry, your job is we need to keep ourselves safe, right? And sometimes that's our minds and our bodies. And I think these days we're calling it protecting our peace. And that's the number one goal that we need to do to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. And, harassment and violence in the workplace is alive and well, and in our planes. You know what I mean? You hear about it often. But even like I saw in the comments, marketing, yes, they wanted to objectify us and to sell us in a very small package. So, we always say that we need to legislate so we don't have to negotiate. And I was watching something, and they said, as OBGYN providers, we think about when legislation impacts our ability to provide care. And I thought, well, as aviation's first responders, we also think about when legislation impacts, or lack thereof, our ability to keep us safe in the air, hold corporations accountable, have our backs, keep us alive, simply to do our job, exist, to be able to take care of ourselves and to protect ourselves and to keep us safe. And when they deny you or any woman or any of us basic rights, dignity and respect, as we talked about in the beginning, access to healthcare, gender affirming care, because men need that as well. You know what I mean? Everyone needs that. It doesn't matter. And safety in the workplace and life. And we all know that when any worker is under attack, we stand up and we fight back. And so I know that with all of us here and how we can continue to do that. The system has been set up, though. It was designed to keep us down. And so that's why we have to continue to fight back. But I know, and I know that CWA knows this, when we fight, we win. So we do have an emergency. I've seen some comments in the chat, and we need to be willing, able, and ready to take this on at any time. A lot of times I think how labor and trade work together and movement, I am very cautious now of where I spend my money, who I spend it with. I don't get into Tesla. I stop shopping on Amazon. I look at people sideways when I see them come out of Target, especially women of color or any woman. But making sure that being very intentional with the things that I buy and how I purchase, because I want to make sure that those who are producing this for me are being taken care of. And so I just urge everyone it takes a long time, but to be intentional about those things. Solidarity, it's a verb, it's an action, it's not a thing that we have, it's a choice that we make to fight for one another, not just ourselves. And it starts with me and by you, by everyone speaking up. When you see something on the shop floor, wherever, it's treating folks with dignity and respect, having hard conversations, holding ourselves accountable first, in the air, I say on the ground, in our workplaces, sewing machines on the job floor. And I know that as flight attendants, every day, we ask folks if they're willing and able to assist us in the event of an emergency. We ask you and we trust you based on a verbal yes. And we've seen sometimes how that works out or not. So I'm going to do a little exercise with you all. And I don't know if we could take ourselves off of maybe not, but we'll just say yes. So I'm going to need a verbal yes. And so are you willing and able to respect women? And this starts with ourselves.
Yes.
We can get a thumbs up or a
Yes.
stick. That works. Yes.
Yes.
And are you
Yes.
willing
Yes.
to listen to women and respect women? Even, yes. And are you willing and able to fight for people to make their own choices about their bodies, wherever they are?
Yes.
That's for the folks who think that they can decide for other folks who don't have body parts of us, okay? And are you willing and able to vote for women? Are you willing and able to stand up to migrants? Are you willing and able to use your privilege when you need to as power to support women? And are you willing and able to stop commenting on women's weight? Because that's none of your business. You know what I mean? Are you willing and able to demand ICE out of our airports and demand that TSA workers get paid? And that we stop this war. And so, good, because this is all about safety, how we move, how we travel, how we interact with each other. This is all about safety. And we all know something about this. So I want to leave this with you. First, forget inspiration. Habit is more dependable. Habit will sustain you, whether you're inspired or not. Habit will help you finish and polish your stories. Inspiration won't. Habit is persistence and practice, and that's from Octavia Butler. So I encourage everyone to continue to be persistent, build some great habits, and I always close with flight attendants save lives, protect trans folks, respect veterans, listen to women, respect women, vote for women, trust women, violence out of fashion, and solidarity forever. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Johnson, for that such a powerful message to us today. With that, I'm moving to the next speaker, Aprilia Snaini. She's a worker as a quality control operator at Batang Apparel Indonesia Limited. She's also a union leader of SPN at Batang Apparel. Under the Central Java Agreement, she was appointed by her union to serve on the GBVH task force. As a task force member, she monitors the production line for violations, receives reports from her workers, records, and coordinates with her union and the GBVH Elimination Committee. She's also facilitator, training workers, supervisors, and managers in workers' rights and about respectful workplace conduct. Over to you, Aprilia.
Baik, terima kasih. Nama saya
Thank you very much. My name is Aprilia Isnaini. I am a junior leader in SPN in Batang Apparel Indonesia and QC operator at Batang Apparel Indonesia. Under the Central Java Agreement, CJA, I'm a trainer and member of the GBVH Elimination Committee Task Force. Every day, I'm responsible for checking the quality of the workers' stitches from the sewing department, making sure it meets the brand's requirements. My factory produces sportswear for brands like Fanatics, Nike, H&M, Adidas, Guess, and others. The clothes we make travel across the world to be sold in US and Europe. But what we as workers are doing is something that could change the whole garment industry, and we want to be a part of that fight together with workers from all factories in Indonesia, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and all Asian countries. 2 years ago, I never would have thought of joining a gathering like this to speak to all of you union leaders from all over the world. Today, I am here with you, sisters, because we, the women workers at Batang Apparel Indonesia and Semarang Garment, we cannot stay silent because staying silent was costing us too much. Before, when I first started at Batang Apparel, complaints about harassment were never taken seriously. We were told to focus on production. Almost every day, I would hear yelling, cursing, insults from supervisors to the production workers. Many women workers often experience sexual harassment, whether verbal harassment, unwelcome touches on sensitive body parts, even forced to go on dates if they want their work contract extended. Some workers were asked to pay illegal quote unquote gifts or forced to provide loans to their superiors. When we won the Central Java Agreement, we were not sure if our voices would truly be heard. But on the day when the agreement was announced, the management, who was previously making us silent, they stood next to the unions and said that they would cooperate with us. And they even said that they would cooperate with unions and that gender-based violence is not acceptable and that they would work with unions to implement the agreement and guarantee worker safety. Workers like me, then we started to become leaders on the factory floor. I became the task force team member, shop floor monitor, and then I became trainer. Other women workers become investigators, others became members of remediation and rehabilitation team. So then we realized that through this agreement, we now had the power to actually change our workplace. And it is in our hands. This agreement has been running for a year. And even in this time, we have now a reporting channel that works. All workers are brave and confident to report or complain to the infoline channel of GBVH committee suggestion box, and union leader. There is training for all workers and supervisors and managers about our rights and about respectful workplace conduct. We meet regularly with the management to resolve issues. There is protection, and we have more trust than we did before. We can be sure that we can get justice, that we don't have to feel scared or uncomfortable. In fact, it is our rights to feel safe at work. Currently, there are no longer any supervisors who would dare to shout, to insult, and verbally abuse us in production. Because if that happens to any one of us, all our colleagues will reprimand them, all of us together. Solidarity among fellow workers is strong. We no longer struggle individually to create a safe and comfortable working environment. For me personally, I used to know nothing about our rights as workers. After I joined the GBVH task force, I received education from the labor union as well as the committee. My knowledge increased, and I also realized that we must unite and fight together to get our rights. I also received trainings to improve my ability to organize and to mobilize union members. I have good skills to be facilitators, a trainer, so that I can transfer my knowledge to my coworkers. I'm learning a lot of new skills that I didn't know I would need. I'm learning how to operationalize our victory and how to make it last. But we are not done. There are still some managers who are resisting change. We need more training and we need more time to build the confidence of our sisters. But every time a worker speaks up and is believed, we win. Every time a complaint is taken seriously, we win. So I want to say to all brands and buyers, it is your responsibility to hold factories accountable. And to my fellow workers, your voice is your power. No one should have to choose between their livelihood and their dignity. I am here today because others before me were brave. They raised their voice and fought. So I am doing the same so that those after me will not have to. We are not just workers making clothes. We are women who are changing our workplaces. We are leading the change in the industry, so brands should know us and respect us. Thank you.
Thank you, Aprilia. Many of you, especially those in the U.S. labor movement, may remember the Hands Off Pants on campaign that hotel workers organized in Chicago. This campaign, which built momentum alongside the Me Too movement, brought visibility to the harassment and violence faced by women in hospitality jobs. We are so lucky to be joined today by one of the rank and file women who made Hands Off Pants on into a model campaign for our sisters in the service sector everywhere. Please welcome our next speaker from Unite Here Local 1, Cecilia Leiva. Over to you.
Buenos días.
Good morning. My name is Cecilia Leiva. A hotel worker and prop member of more than 30 years of Unite Here Local 1, hospitality worker union here in Chicago, which I'm very proud of and blessed to be a part of. To be very proud to be part of Unite Here Local 1. We began a campaign in 2016 to decide as a union to hands off pants on. We decided as a union to conduct a survey for more than 500 women working in hotels and casinos about harassment on the job. We carried out surveys ourselves as union sisters doing the same job. We found a very clear problem.
Encontramos un problema muy claro del 58% de
58% of hotel workers who participated had experienced at least one instance of direct harassment from a hotel guest. And nearly half the housekeepers said they had experienced guests exposing themselves or opening their doors naked. The process of asking each other and conducting the service was itself transformative. The women who led the surveys later became an organized team pushing for change and trying to do huge changes to our contracts and the law. And we grew in numbers, getting involved women in our campaign. I worked more than 30 years as a housekeeper and minibar attendant in my hotel. The problem of harassment was always there. It was always part of our lives. But we only spoke about it in hush voices. When the union launched the campaign Hands Off Pants On campaign, it inspired me to share my experience with my coworkers. It shocked them that it had happened to me too. I understood the power of breaking the silence. I saw more coworkers decide to speak out and join the fight with lots of power. Part of the strategy was to involve male leaders from the Chicago Labor Federation, men that came in solidarity with us and lent their voices to amplify ours. This made it possible to expand the fight beyond just a women's struggle. Prepared with the statistics and organizing momentum, we won Hands Off, Pants On law in Chicago, which required, among other things, a panic button for all workers working alone on hotel rooms and hotel floors, and stronger anti-harassment policies in hotels. This victory made it possible for even more women to feel comfortable joining the campaign. In 2018, just days before the implementation of the new law, I traveled with two other HOPO leaders to Geneva to take part of the negotiations for a new convention against violence and harassment at the ILO. We had the privilege to meet many other women around the world who had fought against harassment, including sisters from the Floor Wage Alliance in Sri Lanka. I will never forget how, even though I come from different countries and speak different languages, we shared so many experiences in common. We shared challenges, also victories. I realized that there's a greater power in organizing as workers, women across borders. Today, I am proud to be with you, continuing this fight in all countries across all industries. We all deserve respect, to be safe, and to have a voice in our workplace. And together we can do it. And yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. So much to learn from these models and these campaigns from the past and the present. I'm Prarthana Gurung. I'm the senior garment campaign organizer at Global Labor Justice. I live in New York City, and I'm honored to introduce our next speaker, a woman who was born on a Chiquita banana plantation in Honduras and has spent more than 3 decades fighting for labor rights, and particularly the rights of women workers. She co-founded Colsiba, which is a regional network of agricultural unions across Latin America, which has won victories with major global brands to prevent gender-based violence among the women who grow and pick the world's fruit. So please join me in welcoming Idias Mungia. Thank you so much for being with us today. Take it away.
Hola, buenos días a
Hello,
todos y a todas.
good morning,
Contenta de
all.
estar participando
I'm very happy to be
en este foro,
participating
¿verdad?, de
in
mujeres
this forum
sindicalistas
of
y
women
donde se está
in
hablando de la
unions,
violencia
and where we're
de
talking
género
about
en el lugar de trabajo.
women,
Como lo decía la
gender-based violence
compañera,
in workplace.
trabajé
Like
para Chiquita más de
I
21
worked
años,
for
¿verdad?, en
Chiquita
las
Banana.
plantaciones bananeras
I worked
aquí en
there in
Honduras.
banana
Y
plantations here in Honduras.
entré a trabajar jovencita de 18
And I
años, ¿verdad?
entered
Entré a
when I was
trabajar para
18 years
Chiquita.
old,
Y cuando
when I started
llegamos
working in Chiquita.
a
And
las
when we got there
plantaciones de
to the
banano,
plantations,
pues comenzamos con unos salarios menos
we started
de
with
7 lempiras al día.
salaries
Y al
less than
mismo
7
tiempo, como ya mencionaban,
pesos
yo
a
creo que
day.
eso se da en todas las,
And
a nivel de todos los países y en todos los centros
in
de
the
trabajo,
level of
¿verdad?
all the places,
El acoso
workplaces,
sexual,
the
particularmente con las
sexual
mujeres
harassment,
jóvenes
especially
y que
for women that are
entramos y
very
estábamos en
young,
un
that
proceso de
we
periodo de
started and
prueba.
we started in a
Entonces se
process
miraba
of
muchísimo esto del acoso
testing
sexual
period for
en
our
los años
jobs.
70, ¿verdad? Que fue cuando entramos a trabajar.
Harassment in the
Lo
70s
mismo las
was very
condiciones que
big.
teníamos
Again, the
las mujeres,
conditions
a pesar de
that we
que ya
have,
existía
the
un
bad conditions we
sindicato,
had,
¿verdad? Pero
even though we did have a
tampoco
union,
teníamos como políticas definidas
we didn't have
para ir
as
mejorando
defined politics to
la
better
vida de las
the
mujeres
conditions
específicamente.
of
Entonces,
women specifically.
nos dimos cuenta, ¿verdad?,
We
que
we
había
started noticing
que
that
hacer
there was a
mucho
need
trabajo dentro
to
de la
do a lot of work
misma empresa y dentro del
within
mismo
the
sindicato,
same
¿verdad?, para ir
during that
mejorando la
industry
calidad de
and the
vida de las
union
mujeres.
to start bettering the quality of
Nosotras
life of women in the workplace.
pensamos que para
We
ir
think that
mejorando, ¿verdad?, las
to
condiciones de las
better the
mujeres,
conditions
era
of women,
necesario que las
it
mismas
was
mujeres
important for
diseñáramos
women
algunas ideas,
design
que nos
the
sentáramos y que
ideas
nos
that we
diéramos
sat
ese espacio
down
de
and
ver
we would give each other
cómo
that space to
construíamos algunas
how to
estrategias, ¿verdad?,
start together a strategy
para ir mejorando
to
la
e-
participación de
to
las
be
mujeres, ir
to make
buscando
the
cómo
participation
mujeres
of
podían
women
también
better in those spaces and
mi
how women
sindicato base
can lead in
Citraterco aquí en
the
Honduras,
union
y cómo las mujeres podíamos
and
ir
how women could
participando y al mismo tiempo
participate
llegando a los
and
puestos
at the
de
same time
decisión.
filling up the
Nos
spaces
encontramos
of
con muchas
decision
barreras
making.
dentro del sindicato,
We
¿verdad?
found a lot of
Porque por
barriers
cuestiones
even
de
within
cultura, por
our
cuestiones
union
de
because of
normas
culture and norms
sociales, decíamos que
and
las
social
mujeres no
norms.
podíamos
We say that the women couldn't
liderar, que las mujeres no podíamos estar en esos
lead,
puestos o
women
en esos
couldn't
cargos, ¿verdad?, de toma de
take on those
decisiones en los
positions of
sindicatos.
leadership
Y cuando
within the
empezamos a hacer
union.
todo un
And when we
trabajo a platicar
started
con las
doing
mismas mujeres,
a lot of
ya los
work
compañeros
of
varones
talking
decían
with
que
women,
esas viejas
the
locas, ¿verdad?, que quieren
that
organizarse.
those women, even our
Entonces,
comrades within the
sí eran
union would
esas
call
cosas,
us like
esas
those
cosas,
women are
¿verdad?,
crazy, they don't know
de
what
esas
they're
barreras
doing.
culturales,
So we
más en
did
esos
have those
años.
cultural barriers more in
Pero
those
eso
years in the 70s.
no nos detuvo. Nosotras
But that didn't
seguimos
stop us.
hablando,
We
seguimos
started,
luchando
continued
y
talking and
sentimos que era
fighting, and
necesario,
we
¿verdad?,
feel that
que
it's
las mujeres nos
necessary
capacitáramos,
that women,
que las mujeres empezamos a ir
that us as
hablando de
women, we develop
de las
ourselves
diferencias de género
and
y
that
empezamos a ir
we
hablando
talked
del
about the difference
empoderamiento y el
of gender
liderazgo de
and we
las
started talking
mujeres.
about
Entonces
empowerment.
comenzamos aquí en Honduras, ¿verdad?
So we started here in
Comenzamos en
Honduras.
Honduras haciendo todo un trabajo
We started
en el
doing work
sindicato base, pero como
within
decíamos, luego
the
este trabajo
union and the
ya
base, but
también se compartió a nivel
this work, we
de
started sharing it
Latinoamérica en la
in all of
Colsiva,
Latin
porque
America.
la Colsiva es una coordinadora
In Colsiva,
latinoamericana
it
de
was a
sindicatos del
coalition, Latin
agroindustrial.
American
Entonces
of the
está en
industry
todo
and of the banana
Centroamérica,
industry, and it's
Colombia,
all
Ecuador
in
y
Central
Perú.
America,
Entonces ahí
Colombia, Ecuador, and
militamos,
Peru.
¿verdad?
So now
Más de
we
5,000
brought
mujeres.
our in
Entonces
this we have more than
de viva
5,000
bueno la
militant
experiencia
women,
de aquí
and
de
that
Citraterco.
experience,
También vamos a
within our
irla
experience, we're gonna
socializando con
go
los otros
and
países.
start
Y yo creo que
socializing with
eso es
other
una de las
countries,
cuestiones bien
our
importantes.
model.
Cómo las
It is
mujeres
very
formamos
important that
esa
all
red a nivel
women
de Latinoamérica, ¿verdad?
start creating
Las
this
mujeres del sector de la
network
agroindustria
across this
formamos esa red
industry,
de
and we
mujeres
form this
donde nos
network of
permitía
women where we could think and analyze our problems and design the strategies, how we were going to change and shift our lives. It is important to say that in the CLUW we won this transnational, that it's very small within Chiquita. It's in Costa Rica, Guatemala, Honduras, it's in Ecuador. How we won to stop the sexual harassment, specifically how in 2013 that we were able to sign with Chiquita, Pasiva, and Viva, we were able to sign a contract which was general, but we had a special component about the respect and no violence and no sexual harassment in all Chiquita banana production. And from there, we started gaining respect from the administration against sexual harassment. But again, we have been working nationally in Honduras. All big unions, there's 4 big unions and one that worked for Chiquita that had the majority of participants has that on all the collective bargainings we have written down no more sexual harassment in the workplace. This is very important because that allows that women had tools where they can put in their complaints. It is important that we see the opportunity to teach each other strategies. So now we have the platform of vindicating women in agricultural. This is a document where we have a lot of information so they can use this instrument when they are negotiating their collective bargaining or where they're initiating the collective bargaining. This has bullet points that it's directed towards women so they can, as a collective, negotiate within their contracts against harassment and sexual harassment. So we have tried that in all negotiations that are collective, that women participate in the commission that is negotiating so that women can defend those bullet points we want to add into those contracts. So we have been advancing in the conditions of women in their in the banana sector. And I think it's very important to guarantee the participation of women in all type of negotiations. It could be negotiations in collective bargaining. It could be special acts or special legislations, but it has to be the participation of women so they can defend their own struggle and their own interests in those negotiations. Right now, I want to share that we are fighting with global justice, labor justice. Many women continue to work and capacitate themselves so that the labor that women have been doing doesn't get stuck, because the work that we've been doing in our union, it has to be a permanent position where women are there, because we need our positions to be permanent. But other women have to continue doing the labor that we're doing. Some of us are going to start retiring, so we need to make sure that women continue to take the spaces that we have won and that they are part of the union movement and labor movement. It is very necessary that we continue to fortify the postures of women. For some of us, we started working years ago in
y eso no lo vamos
We
a
know
desconocer
that
ni lo
this
vamos a
harassment
esconder,
happens
¿verdad? En
within
los años
the
70 se daba más
workforce, but
porque
we
es el
also
patrón
know
de
that it happens
cultura
within the union.
machista,
And we
¿verdad?
need to
Estaba
end
como
this
más marcado.
machista cultura
Ahora es
culture
tal
that
vez
we
menos, hay más
have.
respeto de
We
los
need
compañeros
to
dirigentes
figure out
sindicales,
how we
pero eso no
demand
quiere decir que
respect
estamos
from
en
our
pleno siglo
comrades within the
XXI
union.
y se siguen ese tipo de prácticas,
And we
¿verdad?
know that
Pero
there's
como les digo,
practices
ya
that
menos.
continue
Y por lo menos
under
en el
the wrongs
sindicato
that we need to
tenemos
push
las
back against.
negociaciones colectivas y tenemos
We
el
need to have
instrumento,
these
¿verdad?
negotiations
Como para
collectively.
establecer una queja, también
How do
tenemos
we
los
establish
mecanismos.
a
Entonces yo creo que eso es
complaint? We need to have
importante
those mechanisms
decirles que
within the
nosotros
workplace, but
acá
also within the union.
en la parte en agricultura estamos
So
haciendo
in the
toda una lucha y una
agricultural
campaña fuerte,
work,
¿verdad?
we're having a
Con
struggle
la
and a big
Transnational
campaign
FAI,
with
porque
transnationals.
aquí tiene unas plantaciones de banano
So we
y
have
muy,
banana plantations here
violentados los derechos de las
where
compañeras
the
en las meloneras,
rights of women are very being
mucho acoso
violated,
sexual,
where
acoso
there's a lot of
laboral, no se
sexual
les está
harassment,
pagando su
there's
salario
labor,
correcto, a pesar
wage
de que el
theft,
Ministerio del Trabajo aquí en
even
Honduras
though that
dio
the
una
Ministry of
resolución, ¿verdad?
Workers had a
De
resolution
violaciones a los
of
derechos de las
violations
trabajadoras y
to
trabajadores
the
y que
rights
se
of
les
the workers,
garantice y se les pague,
and that
dijo
they had
el Ministerio
guarantees
del
to get
Trabajo.
their
Y a
pay
pesar de
for the
eso,
work that they've done.
no se
And
ha logrado
even
que
though
esta
that we have
empresa
that, we
cumpla con
have
los
not
derechos de
been
los
able to
trabajadores
get
y
the
las trabajadoras.
get to
Entonces yo
this
sí
company to
yo me siento
respect
muy
the
contenta de
workers'
estar
rights. So I feel
participando
very excited participating here
en este espacio, ¿verdad? Y
and
decirles que
participating
aquí
in this
estamos, ¿verdad?
space.
Muchas
And
gracias.
we are here to fight with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now I'm moving to our next speaker, Swastika Arulingam, the president of Commercial and Industrial Workers Union in Sri Lanka. She's a lawyer and a human rights activist who has been at the forefront of key worker struggles in Sri Lanka. She's also a member of AFWA-WLC Alliance Women's Leadership Committee, contributing to regional efforts to combat gender-based violence and promote fair wages. Swastika, over to you.
Thank you, Abhirami. Dear comrades and friends, I was preparing to speak in this gathering of fighters across 5 continents. And while I was preparing my notes, I read a statement by Comrade Dolores Huerta, who co-founded and gave leadership to the National Farm Workers Union Association. Comrade Huerta is one of the many sisters who have spoken about the abuses they have endured in the hands of Cesar Chavez. When asked why she remained silent in the face of horrendous abuse in the hands of Chavez, she said, I carried this secret for as long as I did because building the movement and securing farm workers' rights was my life's work. I wasn't going to let Cesar or anyone else get in the way. I channeled everything I had into advocating on behalf of millions of farm workers and others who were suffering and deserved equal rights. I reflected on these words of Sister Huerta, and I thought this is what women have been doing for generations, enduring pain and violence so that something bigger can be built. Today we have come together to not only remember this generational trauma of women and silent resilience in the face of violence, but we also gathered to speak up and fight against violence on the bodies of women in real time, as it happens, so future generations of women will not endure the same violence endured by us in the past. In this context, I'm here to speak about violence in the global supply chain, which corporates and brands have spent billions to mask. Let me start with the story of Paramasivam Pushpalata. On October 10th, 2025, a 44-year-old mother and garment worker, Paramasivam Pushpalata, died at the Brandix factory in the Sitavaka export processing zone in Avisavala, Sri Lanka. Pushpalata's death was entirely preventable. Her death was a direct result of a system that values production targets more than the life of a garment worker. That morning, Pushpalata felt severe chest pain and dizziness. She reported her conditions to her supervisor. She asked for permission to leave. She was denied permission because she was asked to finish the production targets. So she stayed and she worked until her condition worsened on the factory floor, not because help was unavailable, but because it was withheld. Only around 5 p.m. that day, she was finally taken to the hospital, but by that time, it was too late to save her life. Doctors told her husband that if she was brought earlier, she could have been saved, and Pushpalata would have been with us today. Pushpalata's case is not a one-off case of negligence. Her case is emblematic of a system that forced a woman to work till her last breath. But we must ask, who does this system serve? Because Brandix is not producing for itself. It is producing for global brands, brands that profit from speed, brands that demand low costs and high outputs, brands that set a pace and then look away when workers pay the price. Since Pushpalata's death, Brandix has chosen intimidation over accountability. They targeted her co-workers, silencing those who dared to speak the truth. They targeted me, sending warning letters accusing me of defamation for standing with a grieving family. They targeted our union organizers, threatening them with violence, rape, and murder for simply sharing information. And most cruelly, they targeted our family, issuing bail threats to a grieving husband. But today I want to be clear. This is not only about Brandix, because without pressure, without the pricing and the silence of global brands, this system would not exist. We have reached out to brands sourcing from Brandix. Some have agreed to engage with the union, but one of the most powerful brands in the supply chain, Victoria's Secrets, have refused to even meet with the union. As a collective, we, the women-led committee, sent Victoria's Secrets a letter signed by 47 women trade union leaders. They replied in silence. Victoria's Secret refused to listen, refused to engage, and refused to take any responsibility. Their refusal speaks volumes. Because when Victoria's Secrets refuses to sit across the table with workers, they are choosing distance over accountability. Victoria's Secret is choosing profit over people. Victoria's Secrets is choosing silence over justice. And we refuse this silence. We refuse a world where workers must choose between their health and their wages. We refuse a system where asking for medical help becomes an act of disobedience. We refuse to accept intimidation at the cost of speaking the truth. And we say this directly to brands like Victoria's Secret. You cannot hide behind your suppliers. You cannot outsource responsibility for the lives of workers. You cannot claim ethical standards while workers are harassed, intimidated, and victimized in your supply mills in the third world countries. So we have come here today as women, as workers across the globe to remind you that the fight against violence in the global supply chain has also become global. We have come together today to remind brands like Victoria's Secrets that we will fight not only for accountability from factories like Brandix, but also for responsibilities from brands like Victoria's Secrets that make this system possible. Sisters like Comrade Dolores Huerta are breaking the silence, and a floodgate has opened where women will no longer endure violence in silence. We are building on her voice across the globe in countries like Sri Lanka, so that the life of Pushpalata will be remembered for inspiring us to come together to build a struggle to end violence in the supply chain. Victory to our struggles. Thank you so much.
And now it is my great pleasure to announce Our keynote speaker, New York City Deputy Mayor of Economic Justice, Julie Su. We are so fortunate to have the Deputy Mayor with us today. In her newly created role, she will oversee such agencies as the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection and the Taxi and Limousine Commission to ensure fair wages and other worker protections. As former U.S. Secretary of Labor, Julie played a central role in fighting for workers, ensuring a just day's pay for a hard day's work, and saving the pensions of more than 1 million union workers and retirees. Prior to her nomination as the United States Labor Secretary, she served as the Deputy Secretary, and before that, as the California Labor Secretary appointed by Governor Gavin Newsom. Thank you so much for joining us today. Deputy Mayor Su, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Gina. Thank you to the Asia Floor Wage Alliance's Women's Leadership Committee and the Coalition of Labor Union Women and Global Labor Justice for making this day possible and for letting me join you all across all these countries and continents. To all of my sisters from Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Central Java, from Latin America to right here in New York. I see so many friends. I see you, JJ. I'm really so honored to be in this virtual room with all of you. I feel like I've been in a space with all of you in one way or another, even though we haven't always physically been together because of the work that we've all been engaged in. And I just really want to thank you, Swastika, who just spoke, for your really powerful remarks and for telling the story. And I want us all to take a moment just to say the name of Pushpulata. Can we just all say Pushpulata?
Pushpulata.
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 As Swastika already said, right, she went to work, she got sick, she asked for help again and again and again, and she was told no. And then she died. And I know that everyone here understands really clearly something that we want the world to understand, which is it's not a coincidence that Pushpulata was a woman. It's not a coincidence that she was a garment worker in the global South, sewing clothes for a brand whose executives will never set foot on a factory floor. The people who run these companies, they're not careless. They've built a system intentionally, carefully, that makes certain workers invisible. Because invisible workers cannot organize. And workers who cannot organize cannot threaten profit. Racism, patriarchy, and economic inequality are not separate problems here. They're one system working exactly as designed. And I know this because, like so many of you, I've spent my life in this work. Many of you know about some heroes of mine, 72 garment workers from Thailand who were trafficked to the United States and then forced to sew garments behind barbed wire and under armed guard in El Monte, California, just outside of Los Angeles for years. Razor wire, forced labor, sewing clothes for American brands. Now, what I carry from those incredible women, and there were a few men too, but the vast majority were women, again, no accident. What I carry forever with me from them is this, that those workers were hidden, not by accident. They were hidden because visibility is power. And the people who profited from their labor needed them to have none. But here is what they also taught me, that when workers refuse to be invisible, everything changes. Corporations are counting on something right now. They're counting on us to believe that what happened to Pushpalata is a Sri Lanka problem, that a union flight attendant in New York has nothing in common with a sewing operator in Central Java, that what workers won in Dindigul doesn't matter to workers in Chicago hotel rooms or banana fields in Central America. That's the lie that keeps them powerful. And you, this coalition, all of these beautiful faces that I'm looking at, are the proof that that lie doesn't hold. Because when workers come together across race, across national borders, across industries, across our many differences, they don't just win grievances, they win something much bigger. They win the proof that we are not in competition with each other, that this whole zero-sum game, that your gain comes at my expense, is a story written by people who profit when we believe it. Now, women workers have always known this. From the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire to the Dindigul Agreement, it has been women, often immigrant women, often women of color, the workers that this economy is built to make the most invisible, who have paid the price for that story and who have refused to accept that story, who have decided that we will write our own story. And through that, who've built the enforceable agreements, the shop floor monitors, the cross-border alliances, who have organized against all odds into unions, not just for themselves, but for everyone who comes after. New York City knows this history in its bones. This city was built by garment workers, immigrant women who went on strike, led by one of my personal heroes, May Chen, who also refused to go back until something changed. The health and safety protections that workers across America enjoy today were won on these streets. And that legacy doesn't just live in museums and in memorials, but it lives in this coalition. And it is alive and well in Mayor Mamdani's administration here in New York City. So I am the first ever deputy mayor for economic justice. And that name is also no accident. My job is to make sure that New York is not simply a place where corporations are headquartered, but a place where they are held accountable, where our models for economic growth and economic development provide justice and dignity for workers, not just profits for a few. So to companies like Victoria's Secret and Brandix, listen to families like Pushpalata's. Provide transparency and real solution. Know that we are going to hold you accountable. Whether you operate any place, your work affects all of us, and we are all in this together. So to everybody on this call, you certainly did not wait to be saved. You never have. You are the ones, and what you are organizing and building is not just a campaign, but you are the proof of what we can have when we stop buying the lie that we have nothing in common. And I promise you that New York City will be a partner in the international labor movement's fight for workers' rights. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor Sue. Thank you to all of our incredible speakers. And yes, we are the ones that we've been waiting for. So yeah, I don't know about you all. I'm feeling inspired. I want to take a moment to make sure that everyone here leaves today with something to do, right? We've spent the last hour or so thinking, talking, hearing, learning, listening, feeling inspired. So yeah, we're going to take a moment, a minute and a half, to take action together. Are you all ready? All right. So we heard from Swastika earlier from the CIW speak about Pushpalata. We said her name. And by holding the torch of her memory, I urge you all to take action with me. My team's actually going to drop a list of links in the chat below. And this is our opportunity to tell Victoria's Secret, right? The decision makers, the brands that ultimately hold power, and to tell them that we are watching. We know what happened to Pushpalata, and we're not going to stay silent, and we're not going to let this get away. So you should see in the chat some links to social media posts with text to copy and paste. So we're going to take a minute now. Whatever social media platform you're on, you can copy and paste the text. You follow the link to your preferred platform, and super easy. You hit repost or you share, you paste in the text, and you post. So as I'm speaking, please feel free to click on whatever link. It's important that before you hit post, repost, make sure to tag Victoria's Secret, right? And some of you may know how to do this. For those who don't, you use the @ sign at the red, or the @ sign that's used in emails, to type in Victoria's Secret before you repost. That way they see it, right? That way they're going to get hit all across how many folks we have, hundreds of people on here, and we're going to flood Victoria's Secret's mentions together, and we're going to send them a message so that they know that women in labor are watching and we're not going away. So I'll take a couple seconds as folks do that. I'll wait. But yeah, this is how our alliance gets loud, right? Victoria's Secret clearly cares about what people are talking about them online. And so this is a really wonderful opportunity for us to take action. Now, as you all are doing that, I'm going to move to the second ask of our program, which is to join us in this alliance. If you're inspired by the women who spoke here today, our alliance is only as powerful as our organized selves, right? And our unions and our organizations and the different organized entities that we are part of, right? We will share a form in an email after the event with you all to fill out as representatives of your union or organization to set up a one-on-one conversation with us to learn more about becoming a part of this alliance. Social media is powerful, but people may forget, right, later on what happens, right? And so both it's important for us to keep talking on social media and with one another about what's happened. It's important for us to join within our organizations and our unions, right, to keep this alliance going and strong. In that same email, we're also going to invite you to the Violence Out of Fashion social media rapid response team. Look out for details on how to join. We won't send that in the chat quite yet, but we will send that in an email following up after this event. And that's going to be a place where it'll be a group chat where you can learn in real time new updates on the campaign and ways that you can get involved. Now, I'm going to hand it to Gina to share our last call to action, especially for our U.S. allies here, about the National CLUW Garment Solidarity Committee. Gina?
Yes, thank you so much, Pratana. And this message is especially to our CLUW members. We are excited to be here and to participate in real time and in real reality and real work. As we mentioned that our national CLUW at our last convention had a vote to support this alliance and to participate in real time and with real hands. And so we are asking at this time that every member of CLUW who is on this call and in this meeting to please click on the link in the chat and join our National CLUW Garment Solidarity Committee. We're asking for all hands to be on deck. We're asking you to share also this form with your chapters. We want to also thank all of the CLUW national officers who are currently on this call. I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to leave anyone out, but I thank everyone for sharing this important call and this important work with your local chapters and with your state officers. Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to fill out the form.
Yeah, so good evening, everyone. We started today by saying we are the ones we have been waiting for. I hope today has shown you what that means. We are truly the only ones we have been waiting for. Women workers in Asia, across Central America, Africa, Europe, we are not waiting for someone else to build the world we deserve. We breathing it and fighting for it and winning it for ourselves. Our partnership, our campaigns, our collective demands, they are working and they will keep working because we keep showing up for each other in solidarity, in collective action. Thank you for being here today. Please stay connected. Follow the links in the chat, post on your social media, spread the word, and urge for union and organizations leadership informally join this alliance and become a partner in the Violence Out of Fashion campaign. On behalf of CLUW, AFWA, WLC, GLJ, thank you a lot. Thank you to every speaker who shared your story and your power with us today. Your words are an inspiration. They are tools. They are full. They are a roadmap to action. Thank you to our interpreters, our organizers, our text team, our members, and every person watching this from wherever you are in the world. The fight continues in solidarity forever. Hidup buruh, long life the workers, long life the women workers. Freedom for us. Thanks a lot, everyone.